Welcome to 1001 Ways to Cope with Stress. I am Professor Kinshasa Shabaka, and we are now part 2 of Let's Talk Cannabis with Queen of Cannabis, Leslie Stone. Leslie, welcome back. And your first part stimulated so many questions, and I know that the audience would want to ask, how did you get started in this business? Where does it all begin?
Well, it's very interesting for me because I actually wrote a paper in college. I wrote a 25-page paper in college called Marijuana, a Drug or Medicine. Now, the reason I wrote that paper is really, I think, the most interesting part of this because it's exactly what we're dealing with right now. The reason why I wrote that paper because, during my college days, I was consuming a little marijuana, and my mother had found out about it. And my mother, being a very strong Christian-based faith woman, she was totally opposed to it. She told me, I was going to go to hell. I had a smoking demon in me. It was just nothing positive. It was very negative and evil, and she just was painting this very, very bad picture. So my mother had always taught me, if you're going to do things, you better know what you're doing, educate yourself on something. So when I had this opportunity in college to write a paper, they said, choose something that you really want to know about, something that you've always, questioned, and you want to know this information. That would be a good topic. So I decided to write about marijuana. And as soon as I started to do a little research, I found out that marijuana was considered a medicine because I was doing research in the American Medical Journal. And I couldn't believe it. I was in awe right then. So anyhow, I wrote this 25-page paper. And I actually wrote it for my public speaking class in college. And the next thing that did for me because of that paper, it created me as a disruptor in college.
Okay? Wow, okay.
I became instantly a disruptor and a debater from that paper.
Fantastic.
It was just unbelievable. And at that time, I could just remember certain people, my other peers and the classmates, why would you write that paper? Because once again, this was the unspoken about
Of
subject.
course.
Nobody.
So you were very brave then to do that.
To be, very forward thinking and just to kind of to put something out there. And of course, being a young black woman. Here I am. I'm in my early 20s. I mean, not even 20. I'm 19, 20 in college. And I'm talking about marijuana as a drug or medicine.
Wow.
So, but, immediately I called my mother up after I completed that paper. And I'm like, Mom, because she used to smoke cigarettes. I'm like, Mom, you got to stop smoking cigarettes because cigarettes kill you. Cannabis is good for you. It's a medicine. Because I discovered at that time, I knew from then that marijuana helped to alleviate AIDS, wasting syndrome, glaucoma. They talked about PTSD, multiple sclerosis, cancer. All that was documented back then.
How long ago was that?
Oh, man, you're going to age me, but it was in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Very early 2000s.
Very good. Okay. So you were very forward-thinking and creative in your disposition quite early then. That's great.
Yes. But see, what it made me realize once I began to understand and see the industry unfolding to become a legal industry was right away I knew that everyone was just like me. Everyone was just like me. They didn't know the truth behind it. Because no one believed me in college. Even my peers just smoked it all the time. They're like, medicine, you kind of get high. We love this for it. No one believed it. So I knew then about what was going to happen now and the importance of education being the critical movement to making this legal. Because until we re-educate to remove the stigma, people was going to be apprehensive and just not wanting to be a part of it.
Right.
So that's what got me into the cannabis industry, pretty much. From that day, that paper, not knowing it was going to bring me to the now. So once I heard about cannabis becoming legal, I attended the first cannabis conference in New York State 6 years ago. Okay.
I bet that was well attended.
Well, you know what? It was so funny. Once again, the misconception. And even because you know what? I hadn't forgotten about the paper, but you know, it just didn't apply to my day-to-day life over the years. So it was like in my, in my back of my mind, but not in the forefront. So even at that first conference, I kind of thought to myself, like, I wonder what this is going to be about. People going to be smoking weed. And I remember talking to some friends and asking people, like, oh, with me to the weed conference. And they were all saying, like, some of my friends was like, I don't smoke weed. I don't want to go. And I'm like, but it's supposed to be a conference. I don't know, at the Jacob Javits Center. And to my amazement, even at the very first conference, there were all these people from California and Colorado. Okay, at the very
primarily,
no, that was it. All of your public officials and electoral officials and politicians from New York State. That's who was at that conference. So it was like I was sitting there, I'm like, wow, this is pretty amazing. It's nothing like I expected. And
you could have been a presenter.
I'm like, wait a minute. Cannabis is a medicine, and it's going to be a huge industry. And they're having a conference right now, and they're talking about, everybody's trying to figure out the government officials, because that's the only people that really attended that first conference.
Wow.
Was pretty much only the government officials.
A precursor to what is happening right now.
Exactly.
Very
a
interesting.
few people that came, like regular consumers in public, but very few, because most people were apprehensive, and people just didn't come out. So I went to the first one. I'm like, okay. And once I saw the demographics of the individuals that attended, I'm like, okay, this is something different. This is not what we think it is. And then, like I said, my light bulb came on. I started to recall the paper that I wrote, and I started to really think about it. And I said, you know what? You better get in. And you know how you're going to get in? You're going to educate them. You're going to have to tell them the truth about it. You're going to have to educate these people, because you remember what happened in college? You became such a disruptor. It opened up doors.
A stigma attached to you.
Right.
Isn't that something?
I got up and gave my speech about marijuana as a drug or a medicine, it opened up all these doors in college. Wow. So I said, I'm going to create a TV show, and I'm going to educate the people. And of course, I needed to learn too. So I'm like, this is going to be my way, so I can learn the industry myself, become an expert subject matter, but also at the same time, be able to help others and build this industry out.
Absolutely.
So I knew that I needed to go out to the West Coast. I needed to go where it was happening. So I created a palette show called Let's Talk Cannabiz. And I decided I wanted to combine everything I had. I wanted to take that knowledge that I had acquired from college when I wrote that paper. I wanted to, combine my education, which is my degree in computer science, and my whole people and management skills, and then there was a desire of doing something I had never done either, and something I had never done that I always wanted to do was be on television.
Isn't that something?
I said, you know what? Here's your chance to do it. You can make your own show.
Fantastic.
And educate yourself while educating
others. Absolutely. Isn't that wonderful?
So that was the journey I embarked on. Wow. And interesting enough, I have to tell you, it just opened. It was just like college. As soon as I released my first reel, within 2 weeks I was out of New York and over to the West Coast.
What?
The industry, they embraced it so well, because once again, it was what the industry needed, because no one was showing cannabis in a positive manner. No one spoke about it in an intellectual way. Even when I told my friends, because I worked on Wall Street for a number of years, I'm a college degree woman from Wall Street, with a great reputation. And I remember going to some of my colleagues from Wall Street, who we are all executives, and I was telling them I'm going to get in cannabis, and they're like, Angel, I was telling them I'm creating a show, and they're like, you're going to be smoking weed on your show? And I'm like, I used to tell them, like, no, I'm going to be the Bloomberg of cannabis. That's what I said I was going to be, the Bloomberg of cannabis.
Oh, my God.
So I already knew it was important to educate on a high level about the business of it. So that was the way I decided I wanted to enter the space. I wanted to come in. I wanted to be known as the Bloomberg of cannabis, and I wanted to be the person or the go.
And now the queen of cannabis. Whatever,
I
right?
couldn't become Bloomberg because she already took that name. But now I wear a whole nother crown.
Exactly.
And I'm the queen of Cannabiz.
Wow.
As a woman entrepreneur, a woman of color who took the
initiative
by storm,
Yeah.
pretty much, and really just wanting to be a part, not only
Right.
be a part, but understand it.
But also a pioneer, if you will.
Well-
I mean, you were really an innovator in that sense.
Very much so.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm very proud of. And
Yeah.
that's something I wanted the rest of the world to know, and especially people of color.
Oh, yeah.
Because see, once again, this is our only opportunity, guys. It is so revolutionary that I never expected this, and none of you have, that we can create generational wealth. We're not talking about a job. We're not even talking about a career. We're talking about generational wealth.
That's right. That we can pass on to our children and their children.
That's right.
Absolutely.
From I have money, my grandchildren have money, my great-children. I mean, this is money you can will to children before they're born.
Perpetuity.
This is the type of things that the 1%ers of the world do. We're talking Rockefellers and Oppenheimers, the Morgans, the Fairchilds. We're talking generational wealth. This opportunity is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And in order for us to be a part of it, we got to get in now. It's so important to get in now because we're already really in the second phase here in New York State. And there are some states where it's not legal yet. So, of course, you can get there from the inception and be a pioneer there. But in the 33 states that have been legalized, because there's 33 states currently as we're speaking. Actually, I'm sorry, I think it's 39 now. Okay? 39 states that has been legalized with 10 for adult use. So we only have a few left. New York State has been legalized since 2014 for medicinal marijuana, and that is known as the Compassionate Care Act. The Compassionate Care Act of 2014, okay? So now what we're trying to do here in New York State is legalize it for recreational use. So that is on the agenda. That's on. It's in the bill. It's going to happen next year. I project that by 2020, when we go into our primary election, that bill will be passed. As you can see, that the states are just taking their own initiatives because of the fact that it's creating so much opportunity. Now we're talking about creating wealth, but let's explore about medicinal, because that's what it's really about. Like, I think the overall world is kind of getting caught up whenever you hear cannabis now. People are thinking about money and how to get in and make all this money. First of all, you have to remove the money from your mind, because it's not about the money, it's about the power of helping others.
Yes, I agree. And that's what actually will make it thrive, because you're helping others. I would agree.
That's where I think you're going to see a lot of people, it's going to kind of get flushed out the market, because you have a lot of people coming in with the wrong intentions. And they're going to, instead of really taking this powerful, miraculous plant that can save lives and really look at it as a lifesaver in a way to enhance the quality of lives of individuals who are suffering, and not really see it as a cash crop, because it is a cash crop.
Sure.
But
well, people will be getting into it for different reasons. Do you know whether Jesus and the disciples, did they smoke?
Well, let's talk about that. So you're laughing. You're laughing, but yes, they did. I don't want to quote, but I tell you this. The next time I will provide to you, because I don't want to misinform you, it's so important. But there are places in the Bible that reference hemp. Now, what you have to understand, that cannabis and hemp are two different plants. They're the same plant species, but they're two different plants. Okay? So cannabis has THC in it. Okay? So in order for cannabis...
Now, for our audience, what does that mean?
Okay, yes. For THC, guys, THC is the component of the cannabinoids, the cannabis plants, that causes the euphoric effect. And this is why it has been labeled a Control 1 substance drug, because that euphoric effect actually alters mood and perception. And due to that, they classify it as an illegal drug. However, like I said, in the New York State currently right now, they have legalized medical marijuana, but it has to have what's called, it's just like alcohol. It has to have a certain percentage, and if it goes over this percentage of THC level, then it's not good. They're saying you've consumed too much, the levels are too high. So New York State, what they've done to control that, to ensure that individuals that are taking cannabis as a medicine do not overdose or take too much to
That's
cause
important.
them to have bad altering
Effects.
effects that could potentially cause harm, like when they're driving and things of that nature.
Right.
So they've actually given it a level, 0.3%, just like alcohol. The same thing as alcohol prohibition, 0.3%. So in the state of New York, you can have cannabis as a prescribed as a medicine, and it will have 0.3% less THC. Now, anything over that could potentially be
dangerous,
impairing and altering to drive and things of that nature, and it's not safe. Okay, so that's why they're putting these, pretty much putting these restraints, and it's not about really creating restraints, but it's all about public health and safety.
But also, a safety valve.
Right.
I mean, you want to have it at a point where it can be useful, but not detrimental or harmful to one's health and well-being.
Anything that is excessive can be harmful.
Absolutely.
We know that. Anything in excess can be harmful. So one of the things with cannabis, like I said, is to ensure that one gets the appropriate amount or dosage. Now, I will also share with you that it's also the grayest area in cannabis right now. Once again, because it's a new industry, a lot of this stuff, there's no track record. It's new. So right now, there's tons of data being collected, extensive amounts of research being done, focus groups, and collecting data to really create these benchmarks and to really define the whole framework of dosing the patient and things of that nature. And all that's part of the compliance and regulatory framework. Even that's gray here in New York State. That's the reason why they haven't passed it for recreational use, because they're still defining the actual compliance and regulatory framework for businesses to operate here in New York State. And one of the reasons that must be done is because of public health and safety. Tongue-tied. Because of public health and safety, right? So due to the public health and safety, like right now, people are jumping into the cannabis industry. I mean, everybody's taking the part, and by all means do. Please, get in. But at the same time, when you're talking about creating products and making edibles and stuff, guys, I know you're doing it at home in your kitchens, but there's a lot of risk associated with that when you don't know what you're doing and you don't know the right products to use. When we're talking about consuming others. So that's one of the biggest concerns here in New York State, and well, across the board, is to make sure that people get safe products. So we can't ensure safety unless we regulate it and we track it.
Do you know of any experimentation, for example, that's going on right now in terms of those regulations that you speak of, like control groups and experimental groups to see what the dosages and so forth would be? Do you know of any of those? Because that is usually required if you're trying to scientifically calibrate a substance.
Well, no, they do. They have a lot of clinical studies being done. A lot of medical associations are doing it, but also quite a few of the medical marijuana programs are part of these clinical research studies as well, and definitely privy to the information. I, as a TV show and a host, I receive a lot of information because I'm a news show. So I have a lot of organizations that are providing me with this information so I can convey it to the masses.
Fantastic.
When we're talking about the different, discoveries and research that's being done, the clinicals, the trials, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, like I say, the whole key to really moving this industry forward is the education and the information.
Being informed is critical. Very critical, and that's the service. That's a real service you're providing to the community. Now, may I ask you, what is your affiliation, let's say, for a store or someone who wanted to purchase or be a part of this? How do you suggest that they get either in touch with you or find out more about this? Is there such a thing?
We have many ways to get in touch with me. First of all, let me just tell you a couple of things that we've done recently here in New York, in the 5 boroughs. One of our greatest accomplishments, and we're so proudly to announce that we've launched a Cannabiz Learning Center. So it is the first safe space in a decimated community, actually right here in Brooklyn, in Crown Heights, right here in Brooklyn. We launched the Cannabiz Learning Center in April. We did an open house to the public right here for the community. So this is going to be a safe space for people to go and get the education and training to become a part of the industry. We're going to cover from seed to sale. The classes are going to be provided by industry professionals like myself and others with backgrounds coming from, doctors, attorneys. We're going to bring in industry leaders from the tri-state area and also from the West Coast as well that's going to be conducting these classes and seminars. All of the classes will provide you with the necessary information and learning that's required to participate, along with getting a certificate of completion once you're done with the class.
That's
so
incredible.
We have horticulture classes, we have bud tender classes, we have the cannabis fundamental classes. So we're creating a whole curriculum of classes to bring to the community. And what we will do is we're going to give special consideration to youth offenders, drug offenders,
Wonderful.
and the people and families that have been decimated by
That is incredible. That is incredible. Now, is there funding for this program?
Well, because we just launched this school, we're looking to have, we are a nonprofit organization, so we're looking to have sponsorships and donors come in and participate. So, just like any other nonprofit organization, we are expecting the community and corporations to keep us going. Right now, this is something that has been put together by a collective of individuals that use their own resources to make this happen.
Yes.
So right now, we definitely need support of the community and the officials and corporations to sustain it going forward.
Sounds fabulous.
Yes. So we're very excited about that. But in addition to that, we also do educational events, networking events throughout the 5 boroughs. So we do them in Harlem. One of our educational hub locations there is Londale's Restaurant. Londale's is located on 139th and Frederick Douglass. I believe the address is 2920 Frederick Douglass Boulevard, Londale's Restaurant. Our next event will be on the 24th of May. May 24th, we're going to be doing consumption methods. So what we do is we go to all of the various communities, the ones that have been decimated, pretty much all your underserved communities throughout the 5 boroughs, and we provide educational seminars, and we're bringing training into the communities as well. So that's something we're very excited about. And another one that we're doing that we're very well. First of all, this is the one that's most near and dear to my heart. And the reason being, I get a little emotional because my mom just passed recently.
Oh, sorry. My deepest condolences.
Thank you very much. So my mom passed away in September.
But she would be proud of you.
Oh, yes. And I
She
know
would
she's
be proud of
me as
you.
I share this story now.
All right.
But my mother was my patient zero. You remember I told you initially that she was very strong, Christian-based faith woman. So, but my mother was very ill. My mother had suffered from cancer, COPD. She had bronchitis. She had congestive heart failure. So she had a litany of health
Issues, yes.
that she was suffering from. But it all, from my mom, truthfully, it all stemmed from cigarettes. Like she started smoking at a very young age. And,
And wouldn't stop.
That was her pleasure. Her pleasure and her pain. So anyhow, long story short, was with my mother, she, over the years, her health started to really deteriorate. And especially in the last 5 years. It had deteriorated in such a manner that it was emotionally challenging for me to see and have conversations with my mom. And the reason being is because, this was my mom. This was a woman, that created me and birthed me and full of life, and pretty much I'm a mini her in a lot of my behaviors and the way I interact with people. So to kind of see her deteriorate, not have her liveliness and not have her ability to do things.
Oh,
and
yes.
stuff like that. It was really, really challenging for me.
I'm sure.
So when I got into this industry, I knew I wanted to do something. I had to find something for my mom. Like, that was first and foremost. I'm like, if this
That was your driver, yes.
then I got to make sure that the first person I save is my mother.
Wow.
So what happened was, I went over to California. I was learning. I was talking to growers, and I started to tell them about my mother's problems, because hers was pretty extreme. Because my mom, really, like, at the last 2.5 years, she only had 4% of her lungs left. Okay, so my mom,
Did she have oxygen that she took
she
regularly?
she had been on oxygen
my
for
God.
over 10 years. She had gained a lot of weight. She was on opioids. She was on steroids.
She should have been on cannabis.
Yeah, she was taking 18 pharmaceutical drugs a day. My mother was so groggy and fatigued and nauseous, and she just wasn't even functional. You understand? Like, I used to call my mom, and I could barely understand her on the phone. It would kill me. Or I'd go see her, and she had no energy. She couldn't walk, and she was almost lifeless, but still living.
How old was she when she passed?
She was 71.
71.
Yeah, so still fairly young.
Yes.
But what I'm most proud of is the fact that I was able to find cannabis, and allow cannabis to enhance my mom's quality of life.
Incredible.
Cannabis brought my mother back to life.
Wonderful.
I saw the transformation with my own eyes.
And also that should have alleviated some of the pain and suffering, right?
That was her problem. Like, when I say brought her back to life, I mean, I'm not talking about just her physical. I'm talking about her overall health abilities. Like, she had so much pain. She couldn't sleep.
Oh my.
She barely ate. She could barely walk. She couldn't breathe hardly. So I started giving her cannabis in forms of edibles. I put terpenes in her breathing treatment. I rubbed her down with topicals, her aching pains in legs and back. I used it on her arthritis. I gave her eye drops for her glaucoma.
Oh my goodness.
So I put her on a full regimen of CBD in various forms, different methods. And she used this for over 1.5 years. And in that 1.5 years, my mother was like rebirthed.
Wow.
When it comes to her vitality, her ability her mobility. She could barely walk around. She was always in pain. Her carrying oxygen around. Her breathing, she could shortness of breath.
All was improved though.
Every single thing. And just her quality of life. She wanted to interact again. She wanted to be around people. She had gotten to the point that she didn't want to be around people because it was challenging for her to have conversations with breathing.
Absolutely. Well, Leslie Stone, you have been most informative and compassionate.
Thank you.
And clearly, one of the motivations was your mother, a person so dear to your heart and who had suffered great pain in multiple areas. We thank you.
Thank you.
And we thank you for listening to 1001 Ways to Cope with Stress. I am Professor Kinshasa Shabaka, and this is Leslie Stone, Queen of Cannabis.